to say, hey, you need to work on this, because that's what you need to work on to go out there and be the difference.
I applied the systems and the processes, and I generated a lot of revenue in my business. I'm actually back here for the second time at the Titanium Crucible.
These people pour so much into you. Nothing like it whatsoever.
The amount that they pour into you is priceless. Iron truly sharpens iron.
Can't underestimate that stuff. This literally right here, what we're doing here at the Crucible, was literally just a manifestation of words. We said we're going to do it.
Operate in the destiny that God gave you. The wealth will come. Lean not to your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He'll direct your path.
This thing is so powerful, it will change your life. It's such a blessing, and I recommend it to anyone and everyone looking to change their life and get on track. Get off your ass and come do it, man. Take a chance, put your faith in titanium, and get out here, man. Much love.
Hello, good friends. It's been a minute. It's been a minute since we've done a Comp Queen show, so I'm excited to be here today. I'm going to wait for everybody to get on. Horacio, good to see your face. Glad to have you here. So, took a little sabbatical from going on my lives. Had a lot of great things in the works, so very excited to be bringing some new stuff to you guys. While we get some people on the live, I'll just go over a little refresher course and some information for anybody who's new here. This is the Comp Queen with me, Cassie. I did not give myself that title. It was given to me. But I like to think I'm pretty masterful at a lot of these things. What we do here on the show today is I like for everybody who's a viewer to go ahead and submit any comps that they want to see me comp to verify that they're comping the same way I'm comping. Now, what that means is it's a little bit different. There's a lot of exit strategies. You know, this might be something you're looking at for a buy and hold, a fix and flip, a wholesale deal, a retail deal. You might own it. You might be an investor. I don't know what you're doing. So we just go over comps. We don't go too much into analysis. And we go over my comp rules, right? And I like to comp these live for you guys. So it has been a while, Horacio. Long live Simba. I like it. I'm a big fan of The Lion King. So good to have you both here. Just really quickly, if you are viewing this on Facebook and you don't give permissions to StreamYard, I won't be able to tell who you are. I'll just see Facebook user, just FYI. I like to have that little reminder. And hi, Facebook user, to be clear, that's what I see. So please subscribe to StreamYard, watch it on YouTube as well. That way I can see who's commenting. And also, especially if you're going to submit a comp for me and like you end up messaging me later on Instagram or Facebook, please understand I will get to you as quickly as I possibly can. But sometimes I'm not going to be able to backtrack this or go back through the videos, or, you know, I get a lot of messages and things like that submitted to me. So I really appreciate your guys' support. If you can, give us a thumbs up, a like on Facebook and YouTube, especially if you're there. So I will dig right in and let me know if you guys have any questions. So the first thing I like to go over is historically we used to comp on several different platforms. You know, some of those have had some changes and whatnot along the way since I started this show, and definitely since I took a sabbatical. I haven't done this in a couple of months because, you know, some of the softwares were being updated. Some of them you couldn't comp anything at all. But the number one tool that we use today in our business to comp nationwide is definitely batch. So you're going to see me heavy on batch for these comps, right? PropStream had a real big issue for a minute there. They have obviously made some changes. So you may see me pop on a PropStream here and there. I like to split test it. I like to keep myself update with these softwares. And so I'm able to speak on it. People, when you have such experience and you're using these tools nationwide, you know, people might be supporting us and viewing and trying to learn from this that, might be just in one market, a couple markets, one state, and they might want to see what those results are for their specific locale. So I like to keep in touch with what these programs are doing. Propelio would be another one that we have used historically. I have not tried to use it for a while. I know their nationwide comps were down for quite some time, so I may pop in there and try and split test that today. I was trying to split test this on some of our previous shows for those of you who are new here, and I just kept pulling it up and the system was down, so I kind of stopped doing that. So hi, Manny. Good to have you here today. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for your support. And so I'll dig right into my general comp rules that I like to go over. By my general, these are just the ones I'm choosing to highlight. These are not rules I made up. So these are the ones I'm choosing to highlight. And again, feel free to ask questions on top of submitting any properties you're looking to, see me comp on here, or I'll just come up with some of my own. Hi, Randy and Lisa. I never know which one of you it is, but hi, good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Titans in the house. So I'll go over these comp rules with you guys really fast. And then we'll start digging into any comps you guys might have. And like I said, if you don't got one, I'll start picking them, right? So the first set of comp rules that I like to go over is you want to make sure you're doing like and kind. So by like and kind, I mean, we call it a blueprint property. So you want to make sure they look similar, and it's a similar style neighborhood, things like that. You want to try to make sure you keep it within the same subdivision if you can. Try not to cross major roads if you can. Now, some areas and some markets, you're going to have to do those things, right? An appraiser is going to have to pick properties to put on an appraisal, and that's going to be 3 to 6 properties at least, right? I think their minimum is 3. I don't know that that's different anywhere. So again, I didn't make these rules up, and they don't always all apply to every neighborhood and nationwide, but rule of thumbs here, guys. And this is what I do to comp properties nationwide, and it works pretty well for us. So you want to try to keep that same style of house, same look, same number of stories in the house. Pretty important. And you really want to only go outside of those things if you have to. So what I see a lot of people make the mistake of doing is they go outside of those things because they like the number that it sold at better, versus they want to ignore all the comps around it that are like and kind and go with something that's not like and kind because they like the number better, right? I'm sure you guys experience sellers telling you this all the time. I believe RJ, when he was doing live closer show last night with Speed to Lead, and he actually had a seller who was selling a single family that was on a busy road that was trying to comp with a hotel, their assessment of where they got their asking price. So don't be like that seller, be better than that seller, and continue to educate yourself on how to really comp, which is, I hope, why you're here. Hi, Angel. Let's go. So good to see you, honey. Where have I been? I have been doing some big stuff over here, and I actually thought about, trying to put out a different a show with a different topic. I think I will continue to do the Comp Queen show. I think that it's going to continue to add value, but at one point it was getting a little bit repetitive. I felt like, people could kind of historically see, what I was doing. I had a lot of things going on over the past, 8 weeks. Started out kind of in February where I kind of slowed down. I had COVID first and foremost, and I don't really miss work. So I love what we do here. Started out with that. We had a couple of scheduled things. After that, we had the Crucible scheduled, and we had fire and ice in our office, and so all kinds of things going on. And I just decided to take a minute, and let people obviously have access to the previous shows, which isn't as good, in my opinion, as a live comp on something that you're actively engaged in for a lead necessarily. But, I'm considering doing another show. I don't want to give away too much at this time because I don't want to promise anything. I do want to get to where I'm going live weekly, at least again, for many reasons. But I think I might only do comps, bi-weekly or monthly, to be honest with you, comps live. So we'll see. It remains to be seen, but I am glad to be back, and I will continue to put this out there as long as it's helping people, because that's why we're here. So that's where I've been. You're very welcome. I'm very happy to do this. First wholesale, get you some of that. I'm very happy for you. I'm very proud of you. And make sure you just continue to put those reps in. There's a lot of tools at your disposal to continue to get better. And so congratulations. That's an amazing feeling. I'll never forget that day for us. So congratulations, Horacio. Have I changed the formula or the way that I estimate rehab costs within the last 6 months or so? Due to supply issues, material shortages? Well, Randy, I don't 100% analyze deals on this show. So to answer your question, in that is really, I don't really change the numbers that much. When we are comping nation now, if I was taking this down as a flip, certainly, but these are adjustments that, are going to make a difference of, like not that much in reality. So you definitely can. I'm not saying it that our numbers, because we put general numbers on it on our initial set of comps to begin with, when we analyze the deals. So our initial analysis, not comps, excuse me. So we haven't really made any big adjustments to that. In certain markets, I might slap $5 more a square foot per category if it makes you feel happy and safe. But we're just not making huge adjustments there, and we're not finding that it's negatively impacting our initial set of numbers so far. So no. But we've been using the same kind of general rule of thumb. So if you were doing 20 for an interior cosmetic and then, median or under price range for a flip, then maybe put 23 or 25. Just really, it's always going to depend on the work that needs to be done. And a lot of times that slapping that number on it isn't going to be an accurate, it's different for every house, right? So sometimes you get to save some by doing that. Sometimes you get to, you have to up your budget a little bit, and you really find out about that through those walkthroughs. So we kind of have like that open door approach anyways. So we put a general number on it to begin with, and then we fine tune that upon assessments. So if it's drastic or changes our numbers or our profit that much, then we would, of course, make that adjustment. But we're finding a lot of times if we have the appropriate information up front and we're not finding something that wasn't, undiscoverable through that conversation, when we do our assessments, it's not making that big of a difference. So do I comp with price per square foot if there's nothing with the same beds and baths? That's a very good question, and I will definitely get into that when I show the comps, but the answer to that is no. So I'll go through the rest of the comp rules. That is not a rule of thumb that I would apply or implement. So you're looking for the blueprint property, and can I turn my property into that property, and for how much, right? So that's how you get to your blueprint property. So if I put $20,000 on a flip or $40,000 on a flip, surely I'm going to sell it at a different price as a flipper. So you have to be cognizant of that. And that's why those repair budgets sometimes have that flex space, right? And especially in these markets when you don't have to have a completely updated HGTV looking home to sell near that top of the market value, right? So market value is relative to the condition that it's in, right? So your market value is putting with as is, your market value with putting 20,000 in market value with putting $40,000 in, market value with putting $60,000 in. What does that look like? That's how you run your numbers, right? So it's not just this, like a lot of people make the mistake of talking about ARV as in ARV equals the highest possible comp. That's not accurate. After repair value depends on what repairs you put in. So you have a potential ARV, but you have to make sure you make the house, your subject property, look like that comp that sold for that amount. So it has to have like the same repairs and the same bedrooms, the same bathrooms, etc. I do not comp like that unless that is my exit strategy or my flip plan, right? So that's why I would answer that question that way. So moving through the rest of my comp rules, you want to try to keep it as close as you can to build years. My rule of thumb, though, is like in the late 1800s, early 1900s. A lot of times in most markets, that's not really going to have a huge relevance on it. Like a 1920s build isn't going to really make that big of a difference when you're comping it with 1920s to 1950s builds, right? Definitely makes a difference when you're talking 1980 and 2015, though. So certainly you have to be cognizant, again, going back to that first rule of thumb, in that you want the property to be able to be like and kind after you're done with it, right? So then the comps do tend to reveal themselves when you start kind of doing that. So y'all will see when I start comping that I go pretty broad and then I narrow it down based on how much data I have, how many comps pull up that look like they would be a good fit. So that's as is comps and after repair comps or top of the market value comps. You've got to understand the data that is provided in front of you. So you will get adjustments on appraisals. So if I flip a house and I have to go list it on the market and I'm going to get an appraisal done, a lot of people in busier markets are waiving appraisal gaps right now. So it's pretty crazy out here, and it's the wild west of real estate because inventory is so low nationwide that your average price per square foot, you are going to get adjusted for that on an appraisal. But I find that people start to get into analysis paralysis if they're too focused on a $50 or a 50 square foot difference, 100 square foot difference, 200 square foot difference. So I do like to initially comp 300 over, 300 under. In batch, it does that by percentage. I have requested that they actually allow you to type in the square footage. I don't know if that's an update that's going to be anytime soon or even applied. But I have requested it, and I think they understand my reasoning why. Most of the time, my reasoning why is because I comp so much over the course of even a day, much less a week, all over the nation. And a lot of times what the data is pulling off of tax records isn't accurate on the square footage. And then I'm going through these comps very fast when I do them, not on screen, and I'm not teaching. I do it very quickly. So I don't really love to figure out, well, 200 over and under. Okay, well, tax record says it's 1,400 square feet, or it's not pulling the square footage at all. And I've got an 1,800 square foot property. I have to ignore the square footage or type it in. I'm not doing the math on what's 30% over and 30% under. Does that give me the range that I want? So I have requested that change be made. And I think that they will be applying that for that reason. Whereas, maybe people that aren't comping 150 properties a minute like me, maybe a little dramatic there, maybe a little Hollywood of me. But when people are not doing that. Oh, Jesse, hi, baby. Oh, my brother from another mother. Yeah, I just requested that, and look at this guy. This is why I love batch right here. He said, it's coming. I love it. I love it. I love it. I could go on a tirade really fast on why I love batch. It is like my number one thing that I want in the latest update. And I literally have loved every update that they have applied since coming out with this comp tool. You guys, it just keeps getting better and better, and it makes my job so much easier. It allows me to focus on the things that I really want to focus on. So I'm very excited to hear that, Jesse, and I'm so grateful to you and everyone at Batch for that reason. We do not do videos on deal analysis. We do spend a lot of time with our team. We do spend a lot of time with our Titans working on deal analysis. I have considered including that. I don't know how to explain this other than to say that is something that we have implemented, for example, in our education program. So the Crucible, we do teach deal analysis, but deal analysis is so different dependent on even a subdivision at times, or whether you're doing an analysis on a duplex or a multifamily or a buy and hold single family residence. It just, there's different exit strategies. So in order for us to teach that on video, other than just slapping a basic on it, I don't feel like, that's something I want to tackle yet. I haven't wrapped my brain around it. We do a lot of deal analysis in our lives, but we do not have a video specific to just deal analysis. So my suggestion would be check out all the YouTube videos that we have where, this is actually mostly RJ. I say we, but mine are just comps on here mostly and some podcasts. So I would definitely check out a lot of the 50-50-50 lives. I would check out a lot of the live calls that he's made, things like that. The idea behind just doing deal analysis, I'm not there yet. Maybe one day, but just deal analysis, no. There's a lot of deal analysis in our stuff, but it doesn't go into that kind of detail. Even our students, we have them do deal analysis and continue to grow. Even on our team, I'll just give you an example. One of our sales guys yesterday was going to actually terminate a contract, and I was like, whoa, there's a different solution that comes to play here, right? So a lot of what we do and a lot of deal analysis is implementing solutions along the way, and it's not always a one size fits all kind of thing to teach. So for our students, we have a hotline where we literally have a template where it's like, if you want help analyzing a deal, send it in. I want to see what you see so that you can see what I see and what the difference was. So it's one of those things. It is one of those things. So not yet, but there is some within our videos to answer your question. I'm going to write this deal down for Mr. Garland really fast. Amanda, Circle in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Same with bedroom counts on older homes. Batch might show 2 bedrooms and the seller says it's 3 bedrooms. I override that and ignore it anyways because I'll show you why, Randy. I'm not as concerned about that one, and I'll show you why. I just ignore bedrooms and bathrooms and I add and subtract. So that's getting back into my adjustments that I was in the middle of. Guy struggles with garage conversions, which is again just an adjustment. Hello, the fire rises too. I don't believe I've seen you here before. I feel like I know who this is just by this comment. Which is hilarious. Thank you for making me laugh live because everybody needs to laugh. Did you ever realize that lasagna is just pasta flavored cake? Agree. Okay, so back to adjustments. So if you have a bedroom and bathroom adjustment, rule of thumb, even though on an actual appraisal it might look different, I add or subtract $10,000 to my comps. So if you have 2 comps that have a 4-bedroom house and 1 comp that has a 3-bedroom house, but they all have 2 bathrooms, I'm going to add or subtract $10,000 from that purchase price because one of them has an added bonus. But I'm doing that because they're roughly the same square footage. They're roughly the same this, that, and the other, everything else. It's just that having a fourth bedroom is more attractive. So you'll see that when you comp that it's going to reveal itself. I do the same thing for a pool. Is if you have a pool and you have one comp out of your 3 to 6 comps that doesn't have a pool and it's sold for $20,000 less, well, then it is equal because you'll have an adjustment on the appraisal for the fact that you have a pool and it does not. You'll see that adjustment on the appraisal, and that comp now becomes equal to the rest of the comps, if that makes sense. So that's what I'm talking about when I say adjustments on the appraisal. Same thing for a garage. If your property does not have a garage and you can't find comps that don't have a garage, I'm whacking 10 grand off right there. They are market specific numbers. This is a rule of thumb, and it's going to be depending on a price point, right? So if you have these $1 million houses in Hawaii and you have outdoor oases, $100,000 pools and oases and outdoor kitchens, you're not going to just take $20,000 adjustment on that. So you have to use sense. And your in-ground pool versus somebody's, what do you call those pools? I can't even think of them right now. The above ground pools that you can buy basically at Walmart. Those are not the same thing. You're not going to make the same adjustments for those. So you just kind of have to be aware of that. So other things that you don't want to miss that I see a lot of people miss in consideration of their comps when they submit them to us, or we go over this on their show, or just when I'm teaching people or have been teaching people over God knows how long, you don't want to miss basements. That's one of the big ones. You want to basically kind of assume that you've got an adjustment of 50% of the average price per square foot for that basement square footage. Now you're not going to find that to be an accurate statement unless all of your comps have basements and you don't, right? So you got to be careful about basements. If all your comps have basements and they all say they're the same square footage, well, you don't have to really make an adjustment. You do have to adjust, however, to finish out that basement to equate what your comps basements say. So if they just painted the floors, have good baseboards, clean ceilings, and fresh paint down there, and it's just an open room, and that's all you've got to do, well, what's the cost to do that? $6 a square foot, and you've got 800 square foot of basement. Do the math, right? If you've got converted attic space, that is definitely different. You do not want to count that as the same exact price per square foot. Definitely only want to do like a 50%. And again, rule of thumb, for the space under the ceiling that you can actually walk in if you're over, I guess, 4 foot tall. You want to have like a 7 foot ceiling, hopefully. Maybe 6, but definitely 7. I don't know if 6 foot counts, but definitely 7 foot ceiling preference. You got to be cognizant of additions. A lot of times when sellers are on the moon about their price, you ask, well, where did you get that price? Is there an addition that I'm not seeing? Why are you comping it to be that high? Because I'm seeing that those prices are, properties that have 700 more square feet than this one, so on and so forth. I already went over garage conversions, and make sure that you understand the value of a guest house or add-ons, because people miss that a lot. So good to see you all here. How do I know which is accurate when looking at comps? PropStream says house sold for a certain amount, then Zillow says it sold for another price and a different date. Well, to answer that question, I would have to look at the actual property. This is a nationwide thing. You've got to understand where these people are pulling their information and data, right? So you got to consider the source on both of those things. And again, this is why I split test this in multiple places. So if you want to submit the address, I'll be happy to tell you what I think on those. But yeah, sometimes you're going to see that different. Was it listed by an agent? In PropStream in some places I've been finding is not accurate. still to this day, even though since they got sold and had nothing but I don't even want to get into it, but they had a whole thing where they were only going to do active comps. But that's not actually the case. They do have some data in there. But that's why I also like to use batch. So I do split test them, and I do actually split test on Zillow when one of these things does not look like the other. So when something doesn't make sense, I always try to make sense of it in multiple places as well. But to answer your question, it just depends on where the source is. So like, for example, in Kansas, I have a lot of problems in some markets when I'm comping in that regard. So I can really only show you, I might go to actives, but I can really only kind of tell you what I think about that, or how to specifically tell what that difference is if I've got like an address or a market to show you. Lasagna comment messed up my brain. It'll make you think, right? All right, my honeys, let's get into some comping. Good to catch up, but what are we here for? Let's comp some properties. I've only seen one come across, and I would love to see a couple more for you. Or like I said, I will go ahead and choose some of my own. Hi, Kevin. Good to see you, honey. Another Titan in the house. Make sure you go back, Kevin, and watch the whole beginning of this if you just tuned in. Please, for the love of all that is holy. We're going to get to comping now. And I reiterated my appraisal rules, my comping rules, and things to look out for when you're comping. And so I'm going to dig in now to any comps that you guys submit that you want to see me comp live with you. And let's rock and roll. I'm so happy to have you here, buddy. All right, so let me get right on to it. I'm going to start with this property here that was submitted by Mr. Garland. And we are in Fayetteville. Man. There's a lot of places. Oh, man. What do we got? Did I write this down wrong? But did I? Mr. Garland, did you submit this property correctly, or did I type it? I typed it incorrectly. I flubbed. My bad. I never said I was perfect, y'all. Just that I'm trying. Where did it go? Oh my goodness. I done lost it. There we go. 6508. Much better. All right, so we're just going to dig right in here, and I'm going to go through my process. I'm going to explain it out loud, okay? Trying to get the property address. I don't have it in front of me right now, but it's in Indiana, if that helps. That does not help. I don't historically have problems in Indiana. So, but yeah, get the property address. Let's go over it. So what I'm finding right here, I pull up, this is the order of operations on how Cassi comps, okay? I initially get my address right here in a batch. I've got my property details. I'm looking over this 1969, 1,077 square feet, 3-1, number of units, 1, I immediately pull up my street view. I love that batch has this street view right here, but I'm a right click and pull kind of gal. It's just the way that I operate. So for example, I'm going to right click on the Zillow and I'm going to open that Zillow in a new tab. So I initially am right here. This is where I go. Okay. First thing I'm going to do after I go into batch is I'm looking at that street view. I'm doing a quick 360 to check the neighborhood. I'm looking for things that I have a problem with. What is this? When was this taken? 2019. So I'm looking at this kind of stuff because I'm going to have to be looking for a comp that's like in kind, right? So did they tear this garage door out? Looks like it. Bad decisions were made here. Okay, you guys, I see a window unit. And I'm looking at the yard. I'm looking at the fence. I'm looking at the neighborhood, making sure there's not commercial right by me. Goodness gracious, did they all just do this, or this was intended to be like this? So this baby's going to need a little bit of work, okay? So then the next thing I want to do is I want to just go straight into my comps. And I do like to split test on Zillow. I also like to pull my rental comps on Zillow to verify these algorithms right here. So understand really fast that this top value, okay, this is like batches Zestimate, okay? So they're taking an average based on data that they're pulling that is similar to this. This is not a perfect system. It does give you an idea. It's especially not a perfect system in this market right now. So when it comes to rent rates, I often will pull them right here. So I go right back into it and I make sure that I'm seeing what my market rents are if I'm needing to pull a rent rate. So I almost always have the Zestimate pulled up here. And the reason for this is, and I want you guys to understand this, is a lot of landlords and property managers post their current market rents for properties in Zillow, right? So this is like an active comp for rent, and it gives me the opportunity to quickly do this, right? So if I turn my property into this, it can rent for this, is what I'm hoping, about $1,000. So it looks like that was right. I'm quickly verifying the information that I have before me, right? So when it comes to my comps, you have a set filter of defaults, right? This is the system smart filter. I probably should do a saved filter, but I don't because I just haven't yet. But I actually love that feature. So Jesse, if you're still watching, don't take it away just because I said I don't use it yet. I get in an order of operation on things and I kind of stick with it, right? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I always go and I ignore build years. If I don't see a bunch of comps right here, and I know you're going to think I'm crazy, looks like we have already comped this. This is a good comp, no garage. This is a good comp, maybe no garage, maybe yes garage. So those are good after repair value comps. This is obviously incorrect and it was like some property package right here with that. And so you'll see some crazy data right here. I do keep my sold actives and pendings up. I'm going to ignore that build year really fast. Only because I want to, you could go 30 years if you want, but that's fine. I'm not thinking I'm going to see, I don't usually see anything super crazy in difference unless you have a brand new build there. So I usually just ignore it. I like to go broad, as I mentioned before, and then I kind of dig in on my filters, right? So right there, you have a lot more options in this last update that I haven't shown you guys on one of these shows before, which I am obsessed with. Thank you, Jesus, for the lot square footage update coming in. I love it. I love that you can do the pool situation because you can quickly just narrow out comps. I don't do it on my set defaults, but I will do it to eliminate and have a quick set of comps right here, if that makes sense. So then I go make sure I hit my filter, right? Now, notice this estimated value is very different than this estimated value already, okay? Oh, but that's because these two are selected. So what I'm looking at here is I'm going to go ahead and unselect those. And then the next thing that I do is I sort this by distance, okay? Definitely not needing this rent rate, but if I was looking for a rental property, I would. Definitely want to take a look at this bad boy at 115. Definitely want to take a look at this bad boy at 108. But I'm not looking at rent rates right now, right? And so I'm going to dig into those first couple comps just to make sure I'm good. Man, looks like if I flipped this house, this is what I would get. And this is what I would be aiming for. Looks like it's a pretty good blueprint property. I may see when it was sold. Just to verify, cute as a button, they did a good job. This is what our aim is if we're going to flip this house and list it on the market for this price. So this is a good ARV. This is a good comp. And then I'm going to go check this bad boy out. Same situation. So you see the difference between this and that? They didn't take the time to go ahead, but they only have like a $7,000 difference in the sales price. And the other one looks prettier outside to me by a long stretch. This has carpet. That one had a lot more like laminate or vinyl plank, whatever that flooring was. But this is clean. This is updated. And that made a $7,000 difference, or time did, At this price point, sometimes you won't see that those make that big of a difference. And sometimes people get analysis paralysis based on that, right? So this one, I'm obviously going to have to go ahead and see if I can't find photos. And I find this is the case sometimes. Don't love that I have to do this, but it is what it is. Not had this. It's a source thing. But I can always just right click it and try to see if there's historical photos on Realtor, and there's not. So they pulled the photos, and it's probably why they aren't popping up on batch. And I hate that because I really like to see my photos, especially when it's just sold. But Realtors can pull photos, and they do it. So there's not much batch can do about that, and there's not much I can do about that. But assuming that thing is bad to the bone, you can try to go get more photos. I'm going to still include it in my comps. I'm going to look at what the differences are, right? So I'm choosing, my closest 4 to 6. They're in reasonable price ranges, right? See how these are all within, I've got 108 all the way up to 145. And then you're going to look at the differences. Well, immediately right here, what did I say on my adjustments? I'm making that 135. So I've got 108 to 135 is really what I've got. Yes, there's going to be adjustments on price per square foot. I don't really run the numbers here. I like to choose 6 comps because I like to have the difference in square foot. There's also adjustments on appraisal for lot square footage. You want to keep that somewhat close. This house on an acre might sell for a little bit more because of that acre in certain markets. And if I'm not sure, a lot of times I'll go to the tax information and I will look up the land value that they're assigning the actual lot just in and of itself, right? So going back to my comps, I really wouldn't go much further on this one. I have pretty clear cut and dry comps. This one also had a garage, so I'd almost count that as 125. I need to go and look up the street view on this one. I don't think that it had a garage, but saying it didn't, this is our strongest comp because, they beautifully remodeled it and I don't have to make crazy amount of adjustments with it being a 3-1 and no garage because we've got a 3-1 and no garage, and it actually has a little bit less square footage. So this is our strongest blueprint comp, right? Even though we have one that looks just like it and sold for 115. And then I might try to take a look at this one here and this one here. Okay. So I've got 6 comps that I've pulled up. They're all very close. So I probably didn't even have to cross the subdivision. I probably didn't even have to worry about this, right? So my average right here is turning out to be 128 estimated. And so that's on average. And if I take out the high and I take out the low, I'll probably get a very similar number. So I probably would slap a 130 on this, but I'm going to go verify this. This thing is, nope, that ain't happening. So I definitely am taking out that high comp, right? It might be included on an appraisal, but you're going to have an adjustment for that bathroom. You're going to have an adjustment for that garage. Again, you're bragged down to 120. And so you verified that through some of your other comps. So you're understanding what the market can handle. You're understanding roughly, bam, 10,000 off, 10,000 off, you're 20 down. I might bring it down to 125 here. So I'm going to say this is a fair assessment of your average price applies very much in here. I don't have to deal with price per square foot. I don't mess around. I just make the adjustments and understand, can I reach that 140 number? No, I'm going to have, unless I want to add a garage, but it's not going to make financial sense in this property to add a garage, right? because you don't see that big of a difference. You might be able to add another bathroom fairly cheaply, but I don't make those assumptions when I'm comping without understanding what the interior of the property looks like, especially on this small of a square footage. Now, if I had a bigger square footage, I might be like, I had a bathroom for $5,000, surely, and then verify that upon my assessment. So that being said, I hope that kind of showed you a really good example. I feel like that's a pretty good example of how I comp most properties across the nation. And that's how I get to a comp really quickly. Now, what happens, Cassie, if it turns out you were $5,000 off? Well, when you run your numbers on a property, a lot of times that $5,000 is going to be either be made up in your rehab or your holding costs or closing costs. I don't like to be off. I find that pretty much usually fairly accurate unless it's a super weirdo comp. But yeah, I mean, you want to get as accurate as you can, but I wouldn't throw a 130 on this just because I looked at the other comps. And I might just click on that initial photo if I had like a very straightforward property, like kind of like what those 140s looked like. And here's why. Right off the bat, knowing I don't have a garage, knowing I have a one bathroom house, and some of these have two, that right there tells me what I need to dig into. And I do it fairly quickly just because I'm used to it. And I know that those are going to be adjustments either on the rehab or the appraisal. So, yeah, that's my comp. I'm putting 125 on that all day and moving along, right? So some people might be like, well, I would have put 140 on it. Well, I would have explained to you why, like, it's going to cost you more rehab than you're going to get on the market for it to make that 140. You'll also notice I wasn't super concerned about build years. And what's interesting about that is I'll show you this really fast. So on these build years that I had a handful of them in the 90s. One of them I was able to keep. One of them I was able to keep and make adjustments. But my comps are really strong in these build years that I've got in the 60s and 70s, right? They come out to be kind of like my blueprint. So this house that sold for 130, and this house, or it was built in 1970, sold for 130. This house was built in 1992 and sold for 125. So if that gives you guys an idea of why I like to go broad and see what I've got and make the adjustments based on what my comps are, I'll look at those photos instead. Now, you can try to do like a hard filter and niche it down in the beginning, but I really like to understand the market surrounding my property, right? I don't like the price per square foot out of the gates method, even though it is a number and it is data you should pay attention to. I don't like doing that right out of the gates because it leads people astray. So the order of operations in which I pull comps is very much something that I developed through being a realtor. And before I was a realtor, I would comp our properties. We were just local here in DFW at that time, and I would comp properties with our realtor all the time, or usually for our realtor at the time, after a bit. And, they'd be spot on. And then I definitely developed a deeper dive into how I do it to get where the methods in which I pull comps now through comping in the MLS and certainly through comping nationwide and comping weird properties. Like when I first started comping deals, I was here in DFW where you get a lot of like very easy, straightforward comps. The one we just did an example of is in North Carolina. And those are pretty straightforward comps for me. It's kind of hard to go super wrong. And there will be people that'll ask me, well, what about how about everything is selling for over market value right now? And should I include for the appreciation over the past quarter? And I'm like, you are trying way too hard to okay, slap another couple grand on it. So actually, Randy, if you're still here, I actually think you asked me this question at one point, and you're not the only one, so I'm not just referencing you. But I get that question a lot. And what I would say is I just look up, what is the appreciation in that market? And I do it market specific. I just Google it. If you really think it's like you're in a market that you think is just appreciated so much over the past, 3 months, that a comp from 6, 9, 12 months ago does not apply, right? And I am not denying, and Randy, I actually understand why you asked this question. Just because in DFW I see this, I'm just like, that's absolutely bananas. But so you look up the appreciation over the past year in that market and say you don't have comps, for the past 6 months, and you have a 10% appreciation rate. Well, then appreciate your comps by 5%. So say that was the case in this market and I came up with 125,000 value, slap $5,000 on it. You're at 130. It's not going to make that big of a difference. And if I would rather be $5,000 conservative than be $5,000 overestimating. So let's see, what time do we have here? Man, I've only gotten one comp in and we're 50 minutes in. And I know I did a lot of catch up at the beginning, but look, I feel like y'all must not have minded my sabbatical. You ain't got no properties for me to comp. I must have done my job. I did my job in all the other comp videos. That's what you're making me think here. I should be sponsored by this brand, by the way. I like their protein bars, or whatever you call them, nutrition bars, and their energy drinks. They're 0 sugar. And I'm trying to see sodium. You do have 3 carbs, though. I try to stay low sugar, low carbs. And Donzale Avery, good to see you, my dear. Shoot me an address, honey. I will comp that thing. Let's see. 10 calories. This is my jam. I'm especially terrible right now with my energy level intake. Like, I had 3 cups of coffee today, and I'm sipping on an energy drink for the rest of the day before I even start drinking water. No bueno, guys. I have to have some kind of water plan. And while I pull this up, Kevin, my love, can we get some order up in your world, honey? Even your shit here is backwards. I love you, and I'm just picking on you. I know RJ picks on you enough. I probably shouldn't add to it, huh? But it's all in love. But all these people live may not know that. P.S. Everyone, we love Kevin. We just have a really good relationship in which we can razz each other. All right. Hey, man, I actually am, it's really funny. I talk to the team all the time, and I'm like, I know y'all think sometimes I'm nitpicky. It is all love. I know sometimes y'all think I'm nitpicky, and I get it sometimes, but when you get to a certain point, a certain level that you're running a business, you've got to make sure like all these crazy things come across like the same way to be effective and efficient. Otherwise it becomes chaos. It's so, when it was just RJ and I, and we were just like doing the dang thing, it was bad that we did that for as long as we did. It was really bad because we developed habits. I posted a quote that one of the guys on the team actually sent us today from Aristotle in our Titans group, which is our Crucible students Facebook group today. And it's just like, hoo-wee. I'm telling you, your habits like that, or when you start to try to teach people what you're doing, I'm telling you, it could cause a whole massive amount of chaos. So let's see. I'll try to split test this one a little bit, Kevin. On batch, I will highlight on prop stream just so y'all can understand that I'm not full of poo-poo. Because, I mean, hopefully you already trust me if you're even watching this. Maggie Mac. Oh my goodness. Did you bring me a tough one, Kevin? It's not always just about being better. It's just about developing habits that are easily delegated eventually, that are making your life effective and efficient. It's kind of like that thing. All right. So you guys see that initially, I think right here, I see no comps. So I'm already starting to filter those out. I've got a pretty good street view like right here. So I didn't initially go to that street view. That is a teeny tiny square footage, 2001 build 2-1. Love it. Notice I've kept this at ignore. Bedrooms and bathrooms. I'm going to see what I come up with. I do have 1 mile. So I might go out a mile and a quarter and see what I come up with. So you can already tell right on the map, this is kind of on the outskirts. Outskirts. Smoky Mountains. Adorbs. Maybe I like this thing. This is on the outskirts. It looks like you might have like some, mountain hills going on here. So yeah, you're going to see like a pattern, right? Now we have this square footage. Now watch what happens when we completely remove our square footage. You've got some more. So this helps you guys to understand. This is not because I think I'm going to find anything crazy. One of the reasons I like to do this, and this is a really good example, is whatever our ARV on this is going to be, oh my goodness, Lord baby Jesus, we are in a very good price point for this market. This market can sustain whatever our price point is. And what I mean by that is I never want to be the highest price property that's ever sold in a neighborhood. So hopefully everybody's tracking with me on that. I'm also looking at what my lot square footages are here. This is a small, very standard, small yard builder's neighborhood size lot, for those of you who may or may not know that. And then I'm probably going to filter back in, like a reasonable square footage, right? So I know I don't have any direct comps. I may click on that one just to see really quick. This is a 4-4, but it's got like 600, 700 more square feet than us. And I'm just going to filter out my stuff again, right? And I'm going to dig back in here. So one of the reasons you're not going to find, there's not going to be, obviously, a lot of the homes around here are larger. So you have little man. You got little man syndrome on this house, okay? We call it big man on the block and little man on the block, in case y'all are wondering if it's the smallest or biggest house in the neighborhood. So I may look at these. I may actually go ahead and filter out some build years, but I'm going to determine whether I want to do that or not right here, okay? So, I'm sticking with this. I've got a 2-bedroom, or no, 2-bathroom. I don't know how many bedrooms this is. So I'm definitely immediately going to go right into, even though I said I like my street view that I immediately see right there. I may not go on Google Maps immediately, but let's just do it. I feel like I'm fairly confident in what this neighborhood is going to look like. We've got a super solid basement, I'm assuming, that adds some livable square footage, but they obviously aren't tracking that on tax record. What a cool neighborhood. Are those apartments? I may not love that. What a cool neighborhood, though. Am I right? I know I'm right. This is cool, cool, cool. Man, I might want to buy this to like go on sabbatical next time. I don't think that those are apartments. I think that that's this situation right here, but I may double check that, you guys, if I don't know any better. Keep in mind, I've never comped a house over here in Seaverville, Tennessee before that I can remember. Look what we've got. Look what we've got. This is why I always go on Street View, guys. This is like a tri-level. And I guarantee you've got like almost another 900 square foot here and at least another few hundred right here. This is the cool ass house. So we've actually got to be super careful about our comps here and figure out, what the heck we're doing. This is a solid question here, Kevin. I like this one. A little bit more challenging than, what I may have just comped in it's in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, near Dollywood. Do I want to buy this? Shut up. I love it. Oof, it's beautiful. It really is a beautiful home. So what I might also do on here is see if potentially. Okay, so I said I would split test it. I'm going to split test it, okay? Even though here we are not adjusted appropriately, because I got to look at some of those broader comps and understand, like, okay, this one right here, does this have the like tri levels that the other one clearly had? Well, I don't have photos, so I'm gonna have to go do the same thing on Street View. But look at that. It's like 3-year difference in build year. Yes, it has wood siding. I'm not super concerned about that, right? What I am concerned about is, okay, is this maybe a kind of perfect comp? You know what I'm saying? This has an estimated value right here. Oh my goodness. They took a loan out on 1/6/2022, which means that's the loan amount. You have no idea what they put down. And sometimes this isn't pulling, so I'm going to look at this on Zillow as well. And if the person that asked this earlier is still here, this is where I'm telling you. Look at that. They obviously put $100,000 down. This is showing 1.5 bath. This is why you're seeing different information, right? And I'm sure it would be different on PropStream too. So I'll split test it here. But what I always do here is I figure out who listed this. If a realtor listed this, then this information on Zillow is likely very applicable. But this does not look like this is some agent information. You're looking for an agent description. But public record. This isn't showing you anything but public record. So it's not showing you who listed it either. Yeah, this one's a little bit funky. You're going to have to be careful. But I would say, based on the other information that I'm seeing, it is probably at least a $350,000 value minimum. So what's really interesting about this is that our subject property here is showing on PropStream to be a 2-bathroom as well. And again, they're not pulling. And the reason I think I usually get better information on batch is because they're pulling from more sources on comms or wherever all their data sources are pulled from. I mean, they pull from tax records too. So I know that more on their data than I do their actual comps tools. This is interesting. This is a rarity, so I'm glad I pulled this up. So I like to make sure I'm going active, sold, pending, contingent. So this is pending. This is a whole different barrel of monkeys. This looks like multi-units, like cabins in the Smoky Mountains. But they just obviously added on and added on and added on. So I'm not going to say that ours is like 490. Even though that might be like, if you click on the details on this, they might be listed in a property package, but they're listed all messed up. Kevin, you said, why not just sold? Because when you're looking at actives and pendings, it's telling you what agents think and the market thinks about the price that it's listed at. So they're applicable. It's data that you can use. So yeah, that has the same photos. So this is some kind of property package, great investment opportunity, first time market by the one-time owners, 2 great cabins. Bought together or sold separately, this way and that way. Kevin, this is an incredible opportunity to potentially turn this into a short-term rental, and I don't say that too often. These cabins produce 58K. So, P.S., this deal analysis is very different than what I'm thinking on what I would normally do. We don't normally teach that that's a way that you should comp, but I'm wondering if this is a $489 asking price for each, and I may even go to the lengths of calling the agent to ask. You definitely have not been on the market super long, which makes me feel like that you have to take that into consideration. Oh man, they're gonna make a killing on that if they sell it for even $489 for one of them. So yeah, I like to tell. So this is just being an example. We've got, yeah, I know, right? Airbnb heaven. I love it. Like I definitely want to analyze this with you. You're probably gonna have to send it in the hotline. I definitely want to analyze this in Airbnb. Like I literally love this property from what I've seen so far. So I'm wondering, what's interesting is I'm wondering if this sold. Let's take a look at this. Dang. Ugh, I hate it when like they take away the photos once it's sold. But that is a kind of thing with PropStream now. Is like they're removing some information. So that might be. Is that the same listing agent? I wonder, Kathy. Where'd she go? Where'd she go? Nope, different agent. So maybe not the same cabin. I was just curious. Sorry for those of you who are not here to see Autocomp. This. So I would look these up as well. Like these little baby cabins are amazing. But you're gonna have to get photos on that other one. I don't know that our property is gonna look like this, but I am all for this neighborhood. And I am hoping, I'm trying to see if this is like got that third kind of level. This reminds me of a place I stayed in right between Mount Rainier and Mount St. Helens when I went to Washington State, is what this property reminds me of. Is this the same agent? It's got to be the same agent. She's selling all the houses. She's pointing out all the same things. It's adorable, and this like seems like a true log cabin built from these little photos that I'm looking at. But definitely love the neighborhood. I'm definitely seeing if this is accurate, that the little area, right? We're within half a mile. So even though these properties don't look alike, and I know that that's one of the things that I teach you guys to make sure you're paying attention to, you kind of want to make sure like you're seeing like your inventory is stable, right? We might not find as many of these traditional looking homes, and that might devalue us, right? So I'm finding a good bit of information that I really like in my neighborhood. I'm broadening my square footage out a little bit because I feel like it's only including for one floor, and I kind of want to see what that is. But if I'm going to flip this, I feel like right now I have like a very good reason to believe like 450 is making a lot of sense to me, but this isn't as clear, right? So I'm probably going to just make sure I go look every one of these up on Zillow or a realtor. I want to try to see if I can find. I definitely don't think like we're going to be crazy enough like up in the 575 above range at this point. And this sucks because, I mean, it doesn't suck. I mean, it's a good teaching moment. So don't get me wrong. Did that filter that correctly? Yes. No. It's a good teaching moment because like it is harder to comp in this situation. Now, look at all these properties right here. These are all these little cabins and such. So you've literally got to dig into them. So like this one has a little bit more square footage counted for it. I really like this as a comp. I really understand that. Oh my God, I love it so much. I love this. I understand. Wow. Did you see that bathtub in the... Wow. There's just slapping carpet everywhere. Oh, that's not carpet. I thought they carpeted a bench. Oh my God. Please take me away. Love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. What was that one? This one? Yes. Yeah. So you see where I'm at right there with that $500,000 property that I just selected right here. So that makes me feel better about selecting these 780 square foot cabins. One, I think that ours are, even though they're the same build year, they were a different look. I wanted to make sure like I wasn't crazy about selecting those. All of these seem to have a little bit bigger lot than us. And those are adjustments we're going to have to make on all of that, right? So it's not going to calculate right here this estimated value correctly because when you look at our subject property, like we're having a miscalculation here, but you do get the average price, right? And I honestly, where I said at least 450, I think we're definitely closer to between 450 and 500 on what I'm going to keep trying to do. I mean, yes, can we look at this $750,000 property? I'm guessing there's some major differences here, right? Major differences. And that's maybe like the complete total finished out of every level. That might be the lot, the view. I'm thinking it's going to have one of those things to do with it. Well, I don't need to go 1.25 miles out. I think that if I go 1.25 miles out, Kevin, I'm just going to get more of the same information. Right now, how many am I out a mile? Or, oh no, I am 1.25. Well, so yeah, I mean, you want me to put it in 1 mile? I just wanted to see if I had more of the square footage stuff in the beginning. So I'm good with being 1.25 miles. I'm getting very consistent information. Like I know I don't need to look at this $150,000 property. I know it's not going to be a comp for what I've got. Does that make sense? I mean, most of the comps that I've selected so far are like almost on the same street. What do you mean I took off square footage? I'm within a 40. These are my, I mean, you want me to tweak this? I'm still going to get kind of the same numbers. So, as I was saying, I'm going to still be going and looking through to see what other comps I have in that price range because I already know I'm going to be in that price range, right? So I've got a bunch of comps that really aren't super close. So I guess if I'm answering your question or whatever you're typing in, I'm looking at this here. I'm like under half a mile on all of the 5 that I selected. These are obviously not accurate right here. Like, I know this says it's a 5-bedroom. I know this says it's a 2-bedroom. I know it says we have no bedrooms. These are not being pulled correctly on the data. And that's why looking through the photos is like, that's why you have to dig deeper on a property like this. You obviously know also that our square footage is not accurate when you go and look at the street view. You obviously know that when you go look at that $500,000 property, that it's got more than like 1254 livable square footage. You know that this is an area that you have to pay attention to those things that I said. It's got additional levels that are built into it, and different places count basement or extra levels or partial levels or walkout basements, because that would kind of be considered a walkout basement on the bottom floor, for example. So this is just kind of a unique property, and that's why you have to get more of those examples, right? So I would be digging in here. I'm not paying as much attention to the square footage. I'm not tripping for once. I would totally be tripping if I saw this 780 square foot property and this 1254 square foot property, and Kevin, you entered this and I didn't look at the photos, I'd be like, boy, what are you thinking? Like, you comped a property that was that far in distance, but you have a reasonable explanation, and that's what you actually have to look at. One of these things is not like the others, more than just the data. You actually have to dig into the photos. When you see something that's not adding up, you've definitely got to dig into what is your property. And it's obviously going to be unique, or a unique area, or an eclectic area, something like that, right? So this information for me is not very reliable. The price per square foot here for me is not very reliable. But the average prices of the comps that I have selected is very reliable. It's very reliable, right? Because my properties are similar. Now, these cabins, these 2 cabins right here, they look to me like they have a second level and maybe not a third level. And I'm not even sure I understand how that's working, because they don't look to be going down a hill. When I look at some of these photos, and then on like, but then again, right here is maybe what I'm seeing, where it looks like it has 2 levels. I'm having a hard time telling that, but you see what I mean right there? I wouldn't initially think that this is a double level if I didn't look through the photos. You know, RJ makes fun of me sometimes for looking into too much details, but look what happens when you look at these. And these are chopped up really close together. So this is definitely like a little cabins around a lake. Like, this doesn't lend so well to that owner occupant buyer, right? And when we went through the photos on these earlier, while they're kind of updated, without being rude, my opinion is that the other properties were updated better. These are, you know, not the same, and I think they're missing a level. And they are, I believe, those two are still active, if I'm not mistaken. So I am taking them into consideration in my price, even though those may not sell for as much, in my opinion. I think this one is sold. And I would go double check those photos again. But I did pull them up, I think, already on Zillow or PropStream. I'm double checking my low as well. And I'm double checking this 500, which I already did, right? So I feel fairly confident that if this house is fixed up to a decent level, you're going to get, closer to 500 than anything, even though I know we've got some lower comps in there. And since I'm getting different numbers with roughly this like really interesting eclectic area, I am finally going to go ahead and do one last thing just to verify my numbers. And that is to pull it up right here, which is so interesting to me. And this is absolutely why I do this. So I'm so glad I decided to do this before I signed off for the day. So glad I did this. We have almost what would not have seemed like an exact perfect comp, I bet, in this house. I bet you this is including 2 or 3 levels in the square footage because of the way that it's built, but this is in our neighborhood, right? So it would not have come up on our comp sheet. I want to see the back of the stinking house. Ugh, and it's got a pool. And they did a price drop, so we got to be careful. Oh, no, this looks like a neighborhood pool, doesn't it? Ugh, we're going to have to look at the listing description. All brick like new, one owner. 16 days and they've price dropped 50 grand. So 3-2. Sorry, I'm reading through this. Split level plan. Looks like you've got a walkout 2 level. If you're going to price drop, change your description, bro. So this is interesting. And one of the things, Kevin, that I would make sure I get from this seller, this is built a lot newer. And so I think it's got something to do with a little bit different floor plan, is I would ask him or her what they feel. See, this is not, there's a ranch style single level 220. I'm still coming in right around 5 in my opinion, but I would double check and see roughly what you think the square footage is. They may have a price drop for multiple different reasons, honey. You never know. I would double check what they think the square footage is on with all 3 levels put together. I feel fairly confident that this is a $500,000 property based on my comps, but it's a little bit harder to tell just because it has those 3 levels and it's only on tax records. I mean, it's cheaper on tax records. That's why they leave it like that, because they can. They get taxed less. I would too. But it does make it a little bit more challenging when you're comping. So all of that to say, I would just double check with them roughly how much square footage they think it is with all 3 levels put together. I absolutely love the property. I'm putting a really good number on this. I feel at like 500. Understand that I am not perfect. Comps are subjective at times when you get into houses like this and markets like this. but you gotta be able to be decisive and understand that when you run across a property like this versus the property that we comped earlier that had pretty clear cut and dry, hard to argue those comps, right? These comps we had to dig more, which I love that, because you've got to be decisive and you've got to have a justification for your thought process on what this property would be valued at on the market. You're not an appraiser. You don't get to use those tools. You don't get to slap those numbers on it. And when you look at a tax assessed, I'll actually pull up the tax assessed value without putting it back on screen really fast, in that the tax assessed value on this property said nada. It's like basically nothing. Total assessed value. Market total value 309. And I don't think that's accurate at all. So that being said, I think that, you got to be able to be super decisive. What is one last thing that's really interesting is, like, you'll see this. I will put this back on screen. You will see this. Sometimes this number is, I didn't even recognize it, didn't even see it, didn't even look at it. Not even going to lie. That number being based on an algorithm is the same on all these softwares. You see how far off they were? I didn't look at it on either one of them. I pulled my comps. I don't care what those numbers say, but I always do like to pay attention in the number I determine if it's close when all it's said and done. I don't even look at it, to be honest, until later. Because you can't trust that number, again, like you can't trust this estimate. So with that being said, that's all that's all I have for today. I appreciate you all for the thumbs up, the likes, for showing up and learning, and hopefully learning anyways, pouring into your skill set. And stay tuned. I may not go live next week. I may, but you should get a notification if you follow us. And I will be back for some more Comp Queen at some point, and we'll see you then.